Hello there, welcome to the Australian Outback. Today, we're here to learn about the devastating fires that have ravaged across this country for the past 5 months. I mean, that's a lot of damage. Now, the typical fire season lasts from October to March, but these fires started in early August, which shows the devastating effects of climate change, as these fires started 2 months before the dry conditions even began normally.
But even with the season in summer, one of the biggest problems the Australians have been facing is the massive drought that has been striking this country, depriving them of the much needed rainwater that they need to stop these fires, as the drought has been making it harder to put the fires out, as well as making it easier for the fires to be triggered. Now, not only has this deprivation of rain caused many issues, but most recently there has been a huge downpour of rain, which should be good for them, right? Wrong. The massive rain that has come down has been put onto the soil that has been previously burned, and the roots that used to hold the ground together has been burned away, causing massive landslides, flooding, and mudslides.
The New South Wales police have arrested 24 people who they suspect started the bushfires. Although these people may have been the initial cause of the fire, climate change has played a much larger role in creating a dry environment ripe for bushfires. The average global land and ocean surface temperature for November 2019 was 1.66 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average. These high temperatures have caused the eucalyptus trees to be much drier than usual. Also, eucalyptus trees are extremely flammable due to the chemicals contained in their leaves. All of these factors have contributed to the devastating fires that have ravaged Australian wildlife for the past 5 months.
Of those directly impacted by this situation, over 30 people have already lost their lives. But not only this, over 3,000 homes have been burned down. I want you to take a look at all these houses around us. To put this into perspective, take all those houses and multiply it by 200, and many more as time goes on. Experts say this is going to cost more than $4 billion.
In addition, these fires have caused 30% of the Australian population to suffer from smoke inhalation. This has caused an increase in health expenses, a decrease in crop yield, road closures, and decreased worker productivity.
Over 18 million acres of land have been burned in these fires, including Australia's most common tree, the eucalyptus tree. Now, while this tree is very special in itself, it's also home to the koala bear. And the koalas, along with over 1 billion animals, have been killed or displaced in these fires. Now, this is very unfortunate for the animals, but it also causes problems for the humans, who are working around the clock tirelessly to rehabilitate and help them.
According to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, tens of thousands of farm animals, kind of like this one, have been burned and had to be euthanized. This has caused the Australian government to prevent a biosecurity emergency because they can't bury the bodies fast enough. Although human actions do share a large portion of the blame for this ongoing tragedy, the primary cause has been bad fire management policies, not dreaded climate change. Government environment group decisions have caused what would normally be a normal big fire into one of hellish configurations.
Now, this is what a lot of the Australia's Liberal Party have to say about the fires, including Prime Minister Scott Morrison. In fact,
I'm calling for a federal inquiry into our response of the fires.
not only this, but he also indicated
We will not curtail our efforts in expanding the coal industry, which is the primary driver of jobs and tax revenue.
However, scientists can all agree that climate change has played a crucial role in these fires. Now, there's hope that when presented with temperature as well as ecosystem data, the perspectives of the government, like Scott Morrison, they can be swayed into seeing the clear connection between climate change and the fires.
One of the biggest effects that the fires have had on the Australian people is sparking a wave of contentment for the country's Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. When asked about the issue of climate change in regard to the fires, he didn't respond with how to prevent the issue, but instead just offered his sorrow for the losses. He also tweeted his thoughts and prayers for the victims of the fire, but this enraged the people because they saw it as a meaningless cop-out rather than doing something about the issue at hand.
Alright, now the main issue on the minds of the people has been climate change, and these fires have only increased the debate between the people, the government, and their Prime Minister. Now the Prime Minister, a very controversial character, he was just quoted saying, "There have been fires in Australia since time began." And this issue has struck the hearts of the masses around the world. Countries have been sending troops, firefighters, starting fundraisers, sending foods and goods, and even doing something as simple as knitting blankets for displaced animals and families. Now you might be asking yourself, what is currently being done or what needs to be done in order to actively fight this issue? Now step one, simply put out the fires. Now, firefighters have been primarily focusing on stopping the spread of the fires rather than stopping the fires in themselves. And they've been doing this through a variety of different ways, including using helicopters to drop fire retardant on the fires, as well as simply dumping or spraying water on the fires. Now, not only have they been using water and fire retardant, but they have also been using the wonderful earth around them to stop the spread of the fire. They take the land that is burning and they separate it with an earth boundary of the fresh active land that needs to be used. Now, in addition to that, the military, navy, as well as volunteer firefighters have been working around the clock in order to combat the fires as effectively as possible.
Step 2. Government action. The Prime Minister has lacked in action towards climate change and remains firm in his party's stance of climate denialism. Although the party is part of the Paris Agreement, it has had trouble meeting its carbon emission goals. However, Scott Morrison has established that he will increase payout to firefighters and volunteer firefighters, which should help the efforts.
So, step 3. What we need to do is take global action. Now, countries have already started to recognize that it is imperative that we take action on this before the damage continues to get worse. Now, in 2015, there was the Paris Agreement, which helped create a consensus that we need to stop greenhouse gases from getting worse. Now, the Intercontinental Panel on Climate Change said that we need to keep the warming below 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as the warming cap below 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit.
The following organizations are helping the Australian people and wildlife with these fires, including the Australian Red Cross, which is helping feed families that have been displaced by these fires, the Salvation Army Australia, which is helping find shelter for the families that have been displaced by these fires, the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, which is helping feed the animals displaced by these fires, and finally, the New South Wales Wildlife Information, Rescue and Education Services.
Now, you can raise awareness for this social issue in a variety of different ways, including making a phone call or a social media post for your friends and family, writing a letter to your representative in regards to global warming, or even making a donation to a reputable organization to help fund the cause. But not only this, you can also join activist groups, such as this for global warming, in hopes to truly make a difference.